action. Receiver open, it's Ty, and he makes the catch for the touchdown. And the Fighting Hawks say not so fast.
UND Football 360.
Kaminsky looking to the end zone, and it's caught. Dang, in for the touchdown.
Kaminsky on the rollout, going to take off and run. Got a little help from a blocker. Jerry Kaminsky, touchdown.
Analysis, commentary, news, and a look ahead. It's all things UND football. This is the UND Football 360 podcast with your hosts Kelly Howe and Tate McNamara.
Well, Kelly, it's hard to believe, but fall camp has already started in Grand Forks, and we've had a couple practices under our belt, and the whole new freshman class has been there basically since June, so should be just no big deal for these guys starting now, because the way the summer workouts go, it's no picnic in the summer.
It's amazing. Now they all know each other by the time fall camp starts. It's not like 28 freshmen are coming in and looking around on August 1st, not knowing what's going on. By the time fall camp starts, the whole team pretty much knows of each other at the very least, and they've worked out together, practiced together, and yeah, it's a different world now, and it's exciting because the way how organized it is too. That they got this thing dialed in, and yeah, they're kind of up and ready to go more than in the past. They don't have to run you to death for the first 2 weeks to get you in shape.
Were you in shape when you took the field at UND on your first practice every year?
Yeah. I mean, running shape?
Yeah.
Yes. Football shape? No, not at all. I mean, you're 2 days in, you're sore, barely move because it's all new movements. Hamstrings are tight, quads are tight, everything's, and then it takes a week of practice to work that out again. And then you kind of come out of it. But yeah, I think they're, obviously these movements are new. Yeah, they're different movements. So these guys are going to get sore, but not like it used to be.
So you played on some UND football teams that had high expectations at this time of year. I think you could say every year you played, and you guys had some great years. This team has some pretty high expectations this year. They put in the off-season work. What's that like to finally step on the field, and now we can really work for that big goal?
They should know that the expectations are a run in the playoffs. I mean, they made it,
Is it hard though not to try and win that championship on day one?
Yeah.
Like it's a sprint, not a marathon. Like what is day one like when the expectations
you're excited,
are there?
but yeah, you got to kind of just focus on day one. Yeah, it's like they know though, but it's always in the back of your mind. So you're back to your point. Yes, they kind of need to play and practice like they are a national championship contender now. Because they made, whatever round they made last year, they won the opening round and then lost, I believe it was a round of 16. I think they lost. So this year they're bringing back a lot of pieces, and you need to act like that. You need to play like that, and you need to understand now that, yeah, these teams that aren't as good as you need to just we need to beat them handily. Okay, we need to beat, and we're kind of the hunted now. Last year they weren't the hunted at all. New staff, nobody quite knew what to expect. Yeah. Now this year they're going to be on, some radar for teams as a top, because they're in every poll. I believe they're top 10. So they got to kind of act like that. And yes, you go about your business like that a little differently than last year. They better have that mentality that, we 8-4, 7-5 isn't good enough. They got to try to take that next step in the regular season. Now you get home games. Okay, you don't have to go to Tennessee Tech opening round. Yep, it's just a mindset. It's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, Tank. You go through camp with the mindset that you are now a top 5, top 6 team in the country.
What do you see really different other than, some of the sizes we'll talk about with Tom Miller coming up? But what do you really see differently about this football team that you didn't see last year?
It's just the development of the program, the feel. I don't know. Is that easy? Because, yeah, your point, the body types is number one.
Yeah.
But we're going to get into that. So there's got to be a point too, right? It's the feel of the program and the expectation and just the way they've set this thing up the respect that the players have for the program and the university. I mean, they love UND. They love their time. They love it. Everything that's been given to them. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but.
And I think you go back to some of the videos we've done this summer with some of the recruits, and that's what they're talking about. They love the culture here. It's not that we haven't had the culture here, but I think Coach Schmidt is just taking it. He's on steroids now. I guess you can't really say that in college athletics, right. But I mean, it's just got a different feel when you're walking around the facilities up there.
Well, they believe, based on everything that's been given to them as student athletes, with all the nutrition and the facilities and whatever, and all the academic support and the things they get, they believe. And that's what, for many years in the program, when I was there before I got there, after I was gone, they believed too. You just come into the year, and if you believe you're going to make a run, you're going to win games, you just know you're better than some programs. And that's kind of how you have to act. I mean, it's not arrogant. It's, the best programs act like they're the best program. They don't worry about the programs that are worse than them. UND now needs to enter that top 5 conversation every year where we believe we're back. We're going to take care of business, and at the end of the year, we're going to have home playoff games.
And they have come together. It is a brotherhood up there, and it's funny to see and talk to like the quarterback room. Like there's only one spot, but there's four of them, and they're all pretty good. They all got great things they bring to the program, but they're out there competing against each other every day, but then they're out hanging out with each other and playing golf in the summer. That's what you like to see from your team.
Yeah, the last thing you need is an internal strife. You don't need that. And especially that, like you bring up, quarterback is the one position group where it could happen. It usually doesn't get personal, but it can get edgy, contentious between the coach and the backup, or something like that, to where everyone in the room feels it. They don't have that. I don't have it up there. I mean, it's going pretty well. They got it dialed in, and now it's just got to translate. We got to translate that to the field. It seemed to translate last year. There were some impressive performances, but it wasn't as consistent, obviously. The SDSU loss at the end of the year shouldn't have happened. But they came back the next week, went down to Tennessee Tech, and, got a 31-6 playoff win. So I think that win, and then going down to Tarleton when, 13-7 at half, should have been 14-13 us. We were first and goal, I believe, and then threw an interception. But the way they played down there and then kind of ran out of juice whenever we got hurt, they started dropping in the heat down there. But they think they use that this offseason. There seems to be that feeling that, hey, we're arriving.
And you feel it with the quarterback. We've talked with Jerry Kaminsky right after the Manning Passing Academy, which just kind of was the icing on the cake, I think, for his offseason, because everything I heard about him in spring ball is he was on another level than he was a year ago. And then that just continued with the summer workouts. And then bam, he goes down to the academy and lights it up in the skills competition. And I think there's a lot to be excited about under center this year. What do you think?
And he's healed up. I mean, he had a little arm injury, I believe, during the season last year when people didn't want to talk about it. Nobody wanted to talk about it. But you could tell when he was throwing the short stuff, the RPOs, he was bouncing some of them. I was like, what the heck? Kind of looking around like, that didn't look right. There was a little injury going on.
Growing pains, too, towards the end of the year, playing a full season, I think. He would admit that he'd probably like a few throws back, but for his year one, it was pretty good. And I can't wait to see what he does in year two.
I'm expecting a huge jump, especially under Danny Freund. Danny Freund's back. Danny recruited him. Yep. So everyone needs to remember that. So yeah, they know each other quite well. Different system, similar. They kept some things, brought in a new kind of a new passing package, I would say. A lot of the runs are the same, just because of the blocking up front and whatnot. It's just easier to keep some things, but other things Danny brought with him. And so, yeah, Jerry, I'm expecting a big year. Everyone's expecting a big year because he's got it in him. He's got that moxie quarterback, the fun, cocky, kind of just but not arrogant type of thing. You know what I mean? It's what you want, basically, in your quarterback.
He's a great leader.
Yeah.
I think he does it the right way, right? And not too much and not too little, right? You need that
Right.
good balance out of your quarterback. But what else are you excited? What excites you about this team? Like, I mean, there's a lot too, but if you were to pinpoint a couple.
I think the running backs are going to be good. I think Lawson, the kid from Illinois State, is going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
I think, but they're going to play 3 or 4 of them. So it's not, I don't think we're going to have, it's going to be one of those years where we're not going to have a 1,700-yard rusher, unless there's injuries. But, there's going to be a bunch of guys with 500 yards, 700 yards, whatever. And they'll ride.
I like that. I mean, we saw that out of Isaac Frichte a couple times where guys were getting 10 carries, 9 carries.
Yeah, remember that? The box score,
yeah.
10, 10, 10, 10. That one game, they all had the same number of carries. He didn't even know it. He's like, gosh, after the game, I looked at it. He goes, he didn't even realize it.
And they do have 3 pretty good backs back there. And, the 2 returners, Chuck and
Brunell.
They both showed flashes last year, and they're young.
So they'll be good. And the other thing I think we'll see back is short yardage. We're going to see the quarterback sneak. That'll come back again because you gotta bring that back. And I know Isaac Frichte liked to run his stuff, and some of it worked, some of it didn't, as we knew last year. But Danny is a firm believer in the quarterback sneak. And actually, the only reason Quincy was coming in is because Tommy was, 5'10", 175, 180, whatever he was. Well, Jerry's 6'2", 200. He can sneak. So we don't have to bring in like Javance, at 6'5" to sneak. Now we can, obviously, but we had that package because Tommy was so small. That's why. So now you really can just have Jerry line up under center and sneak it on 4th and 1, things like that. And it doesn't have to be as dramatic as UND made it, But then what they did though, they bring in that package. Well, then what did you see the other team start to do? Here comes a nose guard, comes running in. So then they tried to fight it every once in a while. Then Danny would run the pitch, backside pitch. He'd fake the sneak and run a backside pitch like we did to Skoke. Now he trots into the end zone wide open. Now he's kind of messing with you a little bit, but that's there all the time. So it's kind of, if there's anybody who has fun with offense, it's Danny Frine. He keeps it light. He doesn't run as many trick plays as people think. It's just kind of a lot of motions and a lot of movements, and he gets guys open, but it's fun to watch. The fans love it.
Yeah, you got KJ May, who seems like a fun guy. He seems like a player's coach, the new wide receivers coach. I've got to visit with him a few times, and boy, he played in the NFL, so he brings some experience. But let's talk about this coaching staff a little bit. We haven't talked a lot about Danny Freund. We previously talked with Tom Miller. You won't hear a lot about his name, and it's kind of crazy. We got a new offensive coordinator, and it doesn't seem like it's that big a deal this year because it's a guy that has history, but he's also bringing a lot of tools back with him. But from what I'm hearing with the recruits, this coaching staff has something about them that the players gravitate to.
They're young. These guys are young. I mean, you look at all the D-line coach, linebacker coach, Watkins, all these guys, I think they relate. Is that the best way to put it? They relate to these kids close enough, to where they can speak their language. They can understand what they want to hear. They can sense things. They're not older coach, and granted, there's a spot for an older coach to at all times because now that guy's bringing the wisdom. That guy's bringing experience, situational experience to the staff, things like that. But this group is fairly young but they've had FBS experience at the same time. Most of them have had that higher level of experience. So they're bringing that back down to where they've seen things from bigger staffs. Okay. So they bring it all together, piece it together, pick what they like. And yeah, I mean, they've done a nice job putting this together. And you got to understand it's on their budget too. We can only afford the coaches we can afford, but the ones we got are pretty dang good.
Everything seemed to work out fine with, we didn't even really talk about it much once the season got going, but Eric Schmidt being the head coach and the defensive coordinator, I think there were probably a couple times where he'd been like, okay, I could have done this a little differently, but I think most of all, it worked out pretty well last year.
I think so. That's a lot on his plate, a lot to worry about. You wouldn't know what he's thinking, but he has to worry about everything. Special teams, offense, defense, all at the same time. He can't just go disappear with the defense over by the benches. He can go over there quick, but he's got to get back out there because what if 4th and 1 comes up? What are we doing?
Yeah.
We going for it? We're not? What are we? And I think Montana was a learning experience for him. End of the half, kind of got away from us. We didn't get any points there. We should have. Another one, was it 2 times inside the 20? And we kind of goofed it up, and we didn't run a good play. I think I don't know if he ever said this, but maybe timeout. They're just let's just think quick.
Yeah.
Is that the play we want to run? Type of a thing, and I think he learned a lot, but you can't micromanage your offensive coordinator either. So you can listen, like he's got the headphones on just like we do, and he hears the play call, and he can look up at the scoreboard and see the down and distance and the time of the game and hear it and think. He's got about 5 seconds there to think, is that right? Is that right? So if you don't know any better, though, you can't override him because that's your guy. He calls plays 75 plays a game. You can't start jumping in and overriding him. So you got to kind of just let it go. But I think, I think there were just a couple times last year where he learned, hey, I'm the head coach now. It's my program. If I don't quite understand this situation, let's call timeout and regroup on the sideline.
Let's talk about us a little bit. Let's put there
we go.
You got your JYD shirt on. Coach Schmidt wears the Adidas brand, but we've got our own brand, the UND Football 360 brand, and you can find it all at the brand new UNDFootball360.com. It's a brand new website. If you haven't been following some of the coverage here in the off season, we've made some changes, but it really starts with our website. That's the storefront, and I love our new website.
Our guy did a good job, Mike. He reached out to him. We needed, just a refresher, and he did it. We said simple, easy. People, when they come to our site, they know what they're coming for. They want information, and they want to learn something about the team. They want to just listen to something, read, whatever, but they want it right there in front of them. Let's keep it simple right there for them. Plus, we got our links up at the top. So we got our stores. So you got your JYD stores. We got our 360 stores.
We've got JYD. We've got a couple different options if you want the hashtag or not. And then we've got the 360 logo. And then we've got Jerry Football, Jerry Kaminsky. That's an NIL deal. Thanks to our friends at the 1883 for helping us with that. And the little baby gear, Lance Rucker. And that's a name that's going to be big for UND football. I think even coming up next offseason, I think we're going to hear a lot about him and his future. He's got a bright future in the game of football, and I'm excited to see it. But we're glad to partner with those two athletes in an NIL opportunity. And you find it all at UNDFootball360.com. And it's not just T-shirts or caps. You can get bibs, you can get a beer stein, you can get drinkware. It's all pretty cool.
Oven mitts.
We do have a couple writers in our back pocket. We hope to have more written content this coming year too, because that was mentioned how well people enjoy reading still. Did you know that?
Yeah, I do too. I'm old, Tank, and we're trying to, let's say, even it out a little bit. We know we kind of went heavy into the podcast, and then we got some feedback that said, hey, I like to hop on there and read. I'm not some people don't have 55 minutes. I get it. Totally. I understand. So that's why we do the cut-ups. Tank will do the cut-ups for Twitter. He'll put them on there, 2-minute clips, things like that for, to make it easier for you. But yeah, we're going to try to hit that a little harder. We're going to reach out to our sources, see who can help us out with the writing. We've got a few good ones. They do a heck of a job. As you just saw, the recruiting post we just put out was 5,000 plus words of, summing up the class to date. So that, if you want to know who we have committed for the class of 2027, all you have to do is go to UNDFootball360.com and you'll read and you'll know everything you could possibly know about each and every one of those players.
Yeah. And again, we will try and bring on regional and national guests throughout the year. Boy, I can think of probably a great guest we should get on for homecoming week. It's pretty good. Number 18. You think he might be? You think we can get Weston on?
Yeah, Weston. I'm sure we can get him. He's out west right now in Bismarck. So, we should be able to get that one. Chad Mustard. He's always around. We can get him on.
Pitt State game, right? Yeah. It's still fun to watch him truck up the sidelines. So title sponsors this year, Rumor Sports Bar and Grill and Development Homes, Inc. They've been there for us for a long time, and we couldn't appreciate them more. Just played in the Rumors Golf Tournament and Hey, my flight won. We won our flight.
We were on the same hole, and it was Tank's team against my team. Big showdown. And then we get to the funny story. We get to the 18th hole. We finish up. I think we all played it in. And last hole, we're done. And we look at each other. Whoa, play it again. Play it again. $10 a piece. Numbers start coming out. So then we go back out 4-on-4. What do we do? Tied?
Yeah.
We tied. So then
Someone had to get the softball, I think.
Well, no, then we did it again. Hey, one more time. Let's drive back one more while. Now, Kingswalk kind of wants everybody gone, but we drive back again. We play the hole again and tie. That was a good time. It was the rumors.
Great time. And then we had a great time afterwards. And Development Homes Inc. Does the gaming there. And pretty much everything you need for gaming, you'll find at Rumors. The Toasted Frog. Boy, we couldn't thank them enough. Jonathan and the crew over there, they've been a great sponsor, and Jonathan just a good friend of the program, a great resource for us. So
Friday night before the game is huge we've heard over the years for the parents coming to town. They head to the Toasted Frog Friday night before the game. Saturday after the game, they'll meet with their son, his friends, whoever, the teammates, go to the Toasted Frog. That's kind of the place to be downtown.
Yeah. The ambiance is right up there with any place you'll find in Grand Forks. And then Interstate Industrial Oil Field Services, boy, what a great sponsor there. Just appreciates the content we do, and we couldn't thank you enough. Kelly Howe Insurance, that's a big one.
Yeah.
What's the special this week?
Yeah. No, as always, we're always packaging up the lake homes. Tank, that's a sweet spot. I try to get the word out as best I can. If you're a North Dakota resident, you got a lake home or you got an Arizona home, we package them together under the Nodak product, and it's famous last words, but it's close to unbeatable, Tank. The rate you're going to get for the coverage, it's pretty good, and I try to get the word out to anyone who has that kind of a setup. So yeah, that's the main one.
There's North Dakotans that have lake property in Minnesota.
Yeah, there's a couple, I guess.
So if you're one of those, get a hold of Kelly and he'll hook you up. And then I've got tanklogo.com that I'm excited to be doing now full time. So if I can help you with anything you need a logo with, just go to tanklogo.com. All my contact info is there. And God, I shouldn't brag, but I got my own Crocs now. I got the tanklogo.com Crocs, and I wear Crocs about 11 months out. No, it's kind of fun. So we've got a lot of exciting things coming up this year. We also looking for more sponsors. We're working with a couple more, but if you want to help provide coverage for UND football, get a hold of us, and we'd love to visit with you. But overall, I'm just excited for that Thursday night at the Alaris Center. It's going to be here before we know it. Go down to Nebraska. I've been to the game there. It is an unbelievable experience. The state of Nebraska, I said, why do you guys do this every Saturday? And they said, because we got nothing else to do. So they still 85,000 strong every Saturday, even though there hasn't been a lot to cheer about. And the atmosphere, like the pregame and all that, it's fantastic. I think we couldn't ask for a better kickoff time than 6:00. That's going to be just unbelievable. Yeah, we should still have nice weather, but try and make a road game. It's always
we're going to be there
to get down there and support them on the road, and it's always a new experience too. Like that's probably one of the funnest things about doing the broadcasts was going to all the away stadiums and seeing how that works. And still thought Pittsburgh, Kansas was more glamorous than what it was because you pull in there and you're like, this is it.
Maryville is a whole lot different. Northwest Missouri. I was like, but. Yeah, they got good football teams though. They're good at that.
Yeah, we're excited. So Kelly is going to be on top of it. We do have a great relationship, but you're not going to be afraid to throw that opinion around this year, are you?
Never am. You just got to wait, and that's the thing. I think we've earned the respect of people. Tank. We keep it fair. Okay, we're like, we love UND, and we're going to sound like homers at times. But nobody criticizes them more publicly. No, people criticize them, but nobody criticizes and analyzes and said, hey, we shouldn't have done that. Was bad, more than us.
Yeah.
Because we'll come on and say it, at the end of games, that when we do that review show, it's very candid. Okay, there's no joke in those review shows sometimes. Any of you guys heard it. So I think that's where we've earned the respect of the UND fan base. Is like, hey, they know they're going to come here. They want to be energized. They want to be excited, but they also kind of want to, here, let's temper the enthusiasm just a little bit when it needs to be. Right? Is that fair?
Yep. Especially when things are going good, you got to pick those. I just got to get better here.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that's what we try to do. But the main thing is just to have fun with it. I mean, we try to do that for everyone because when Saturday comes around, everyone wants to feel good. They want to be excited. They want to support a winner, right?
Yep, we did that last year. Over 11,000 we averaged at the Alaris Center, so that's pretty close to being full almost every Saturday. So let's change that and let's fill that thing. Fill the ends, right? Is that what they say?
Fill the corners. Yep.
In Forks, it's going to be a great year. So we got Tom Miller coming up from the Grand Forks Herald. Been a great resource for us over the years, and we ask for you to subscribe and read his content at Grand Forks Herald. Well, it is our Toasted Frog Guest of the Week, and we're getting into that part of the season now where we're going to be doing a weekly show, probably in a couple weeks, that first kickoff, Kelly.
Yeah, it won't be too long. I couldn't believe it. I don't know about you, Tom, but all of a sudden they put out that practice schedule and I kind of looked at it a little bit. Okay, they're starting practice. Well, I didn't realize it was the next week. It was like they were starting July 29th. I had no clue it was coming up this quick. I'm so used to like an August practice start. And it seems like, I don't know, are they starting earlier every year?
Well, let's hold on a second. Tom Miller, Grand Forks Herald, our guest here. Kelly, I know it's preseason still for you, but okay, now ask your question.
Starting too early, Tom. That's my question.
It's a week earlier for sure this year.
Okay. Yeah, well, a week, I guess. I mean, well, that's a week though, because I'm used to August.
Well, it's the week 0 now that kind of threw things out there, right? In the last couple of years, people start talking about that, Tom.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. And, you start on a Thursday. Do you get to start a little extra early?
Oh, yeah. I did see some teams were starting, in a few days after these guys. So I suppose it's something like that. But
well, let's just ask you, Tom. I know you put out a great article on kind of what you were looking for in camp, but just give us your overall thoughts of your expectations going into this start of the season.
Yeah, the first couple of days of fall camp here, kind of trying to get a feel for, number one, who's wearing what number, because not only do you have new guys and transfers, but you've also got returners coming back and they're wearing brand new numbers. So trying to get everybody figured out, but trying to get a feel for the defense, because there's question marks, especially on the back end, and offensively there's a lot of new wide receivers to try to figure out who might be useful. Kind of keeping an eye on how things are progressing with Jerry Kaminsky, a quarterback, and who's going to get some handoffs. So there's just so many storylines. It's hard to summarize.
Well, my first note I had, Tom, I wanted to give you a little publicity here. 23rd year covering UND football, Tom. Talk about that a little bit. What do you think when you hear that? Does it just mean you've been doing it a long time, or have you've seen a heck of a lot of different versions of UND football and UND facilities in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly got a lot of awesome opportunities coming right out of high school handed to me. Wayne Nelson kind of taught me the beat world at the Grand Forks Herald, and so I've been able to do it for a long time. And I grew up by Memorial Stadium going to games, so it's been I made it to 40 years old without having to get a real job, and I'm just going to see how long I can keep fooling people here.
I got to kid a little bit, but if you've been doing this for 23 years, how old does that make Wayne Nelson now?
Wayne's young and spry and writing racing stories for me, so I've only got love for Wayne.
You're one of the best for your mentors there. I had many fun road trips with him in the early 2000s. Let's talk about what happens now. What's going on campus for these guys in the early parts of fall camp? How does this all play out?
Well, when I'm probably still sleeping, these guys are in, position meetings and in the classroom work before they hit the field. And then about 9:15 they go through drills for fall camp. It wraps up about 11:30. They do some individual work mixed in with, some 7-on-7, some 11-on-11, which is the most interesting thing to watch, and sprinkle in some special teams. And I've been kind of splitting time. Some guys are field to the south, and today the primary Memorial Field.
Hey, Tom, I'm going to ask you about Missouri Valley Media Day thoughts here before we jump into the team. Was there anything to glean from that, from those media days that they have? I mean, do you ever get a good talker out of that, or was there anything to pick up this year who you think somebody thinks it might be a little better than they have been in the past, or who a new power might be this year?
They're good networking events, but in terms of gathering news information from a newspaper perspective, sometimes those events are better suited for radio and television to get sound bites and clips. In terms of actually tracking down information, they're not super valuable to me. It's a good time to check you in sometimes. I get a chance to talk to Eric Schmidt a decent amount, but just being in a press conference setting, kind of sometimes it's an opportunity to make some things official and get updates on different guys. Eric Schmidt was able to give us an update there on the Avery Scott and Johnny Wiltshire situation that was kind of dangling in the wind there. So for moments like that, it's valuable for me, but there's a lot of ways too that it's not super valuable. They bring established players, and you trot out a preseason poll that looks like the standings from the year ago. So I don't take a ton from it, but it is a good opportunity sometimes to speak with individual coaches and get some perspectives from around the league, and you kind of summarize those and get it done in a timely fashion. I like having those.
What is your top 5 going into the preseason for the conference?
Now you got to make me have to recall what I even did. I mean, I think South Dakota State, just over their history, has earned that right to be number 1. I think Illinois State, by making the championship, earns the right to be number 2, returning what they're going to return. And so to me, that leaves just a real mess at 3, 4, 5, 6. I think, everybody went with Youngstown. I didn't have them as high. I think North Dakota is in that 3 spot. I think South Dakota could be in 4, and Youngstown's in 5 to me.
Is there like a sleeper team that behind the scenes people were like, ooh, they could really kind of catch a few people this year?
I think anybody in that mix, in that South Dakota, Southern Illinois, North Dakota. Yeah, honestly, my takeaway was that middle of the pack is not so middle of the pack anymore too, right? Because, there's no North Dakota State. So it's, everybody's kind of lumped there. The South Dakota State really, did they blow anybody away last year despite their quarterback issues that should be probably solved this year? North Dakota should never have lost that game in Grand Forks. So I think it's going to be a very tight race at the top.
Yeah, I think the one thing I can't get over, I know Youngstown, they're going to put points on the board, obviously, with Brungard, and UND actually played them probably the best of anybody. Played them defensively, holding them to 17 in that game. But I just have to watch their defense. I have to see it. That was so bad. I mean, who was it? Yale? Was it Yale that went in there and beat them? I can't remember. But in the playoffs, but they just kept giving up so many points that I just, obviously you can't outscore people in this league. It's just not going to work. You have to. The best defense will win every year. It's pretty much proven. So they're the one that I've seen, people like, and rightfully so, with Brungard coming back, that keep them in the top 3, and they're, excited about them. I get it, but we got to see what they did on defense, because that was a lot of points. I mean, they were giving up 40 quite a bit, and UND was the opposite. UND's defense really, really was good out of the gate. I mean, from day one, that was a pretty impressive effort. And we'll get into that more here in a little bit. We got a full list here of stuff.
What were you hearing behind the scenes about UND and the first year of Eric Schmidt, and what their expectations are, what they're expecting to see out of Grand Forks this year?
I think there was, a pretty good amount of respect given to the turnaround in North Dakota and the way they played on the road, and the signs that Eric Schmidt has some answers defensively. And so, yeah, I think there was definitely a level of respect there heading into year 2, expecting North Dakota to be a great challenger for South Dakota State.
Let's look at the roster, Tom. I'm going to dive in a little bit after this, but what are your thoughts on this 2026 roster? I mean, when I look at it, it's looking as good as it's looked in quite a while, maybe ever, in my opinion. I mean, just the body types, and give us an overarching, when you're standing there at practice, you're looking at them. What do you think of this group?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we talked about in recruiting, is that he recruited projectable body types. It was those 6'5", 220-ish kids that, you think that you can get them to 6'5", 250. And I think you just notice a difference with this true freshman class coming in that they fill it out pretty well. You have the Beaver twins and Minta from Eden Prairie, and there's a couple other edges that are true freshmen that fill it out well. And the corners are longer. I just think you're starting to notice some of the emphasis on length and body types.
Do you feel and see a different vibe of how practices run this year, just with those more physical body types out there?
It's hard to say yet. Just a couple days in, you're trying to get numbers figured out and figure out who's who and learn some of the new names. So I think that's something that it's maybe too early to tell if there's a different physicality, because you're still running around and not in full pads right now.
And you mentioned the cornerback group, Tom. I wanted to talk about them a little bit. We've had some questions on Twitter about that too. A lot longer group now. When you look at, they break them out, they call them DBs on here on the roster, but Grant Nolan, Christian Davis just came in as a freshman. He's 6 foot. Ben Kamara, the transfer, he's 6'4". Evan Klutz, 6'3". So now you're getting long corners that you typically would not have. I mean, they don't usually, a 6'4" corner just doesn't exist really. But, now they got him, they got Kamara, they got Klutz, and then they got Hines came in as a transfer. He's 6 foot. So it seemed everyone on this list is pretty much 6 foot and above. I mean, it seemed after Tarleton, I think the emphasis was depth, because we ran out of it. We didn't have any. So then they said, okay, now we need body. But then, like you said, now this group suddenly got a lot longer and they can play against a lot more body types, especially in that defense when you have 5 DBs on the field. I mean, is that group, when you look at that corner group, is it just looking a lot different, I guess, than in the past? I mean, probably as good as it's been.
Yeah, I think it's just really noticeable having Klutz and Kamara around there, because the only guy you can think of kind of with that body type is like Deion Harris, and so they're kind of so rare it jumps out at you. But it's going to be kind of fun to follow to see who emerges now. If Klutz can come on and earn some playing time, if Christian Davis can earn some playing time as a kid who was committed to Northern Illinois before swapping to North Dakota. So I think there's some hope that he's got some high end ability. And after that, it's going to be a bunch of guys I don't know enough about yet. Taurus Rudd and Travis Hines and some of those guys. Avery Scott could throw a wrench in some of those plans if he gets green lighted to play as well, because he has an ability to play corner. And you don't know what you could do the same with Henry Theobald, play corner or nickel. So there's just a lot to play out here in the coming days.
I assume our 2 JUCO guys didn't practice again today?
Correct. Scott and Wiltshire were not in uniform today, but I would be surprised if they didn't go by the end of the week.
What is the latest? For those that don't really know what's going on here, just give us the Cliff Note version of what we're waiting for on these 2.
Yeah, so Scott and Wiltshire are seeking an additional year of eligibility, suing the NCAA through the court system, and they've received temporary restraining orders, which should allow them to practice. They apparently have some institutional hurdles to overcome here before they can start practicing. I think they just need to get some paperwork ironed out, kind of thing, to start practicing. Now, they also have court dates that are going to determine their playing status for the year, and they're hoping to get, preliminary injunctions to be able to play this year. So those court dates are coming later in August. It's going to be darn near kickoff.
They got to be in shape. They can't miss too many practices, but I suppose, like you said, they're going to get going here just so they're ready to go for that first game. Well, that'd be a big boost because both of them were really good players for UND last year.
So I know the dietitian department has come over and helped with some of the nutrition aspect. Does the law school help out on the cases like this? A little in-student training?
No, I don't think they're relying on students, but I think there's some good connections behind the scenes there to make that work.
Well, Tom, let's switch to the other side. That's across from the corners, the wide receiver room. Okay, so I know we've talked about this in the past. We know we got Dang. Caleb Goodlow. We've heard good things. Tell us about Caleb Goodlow. Give us the 411. What's his playing style? What does he bring? Because the way it sounds is he's going to be out there quite a bit for us, and he'll be starting. So what kind of player is he? What can the fans expect?
Yeah, he's if I don't have it in front of me. Is he 6'2" or 6'3"? But he's longer. You know, he reminds me a little bit of DeMontenac, but he really competes for balls. He'll moss somebody or he'll win a back shoulder, or I just think he has a really high compete level when it comes to making the tough catches. And he had a couple big catches today during 11-on-11 drills.
Is Corey Ty, is he third? Then I mean, I've heard his name pop up a little bit. That was the guy. He's made plays off and on throughout the years. Would he be the next guy in line?
Yeah, I mean, I see Dang Dang probably as the leader of that group. I see Caleb Goodlow right there, and I think it's Corey Ty. I think he needs to have a big year, and I think there's been some highs and lows for him over the course here of his career, and I think if he can find some consistency, he could really fill a role that they're going to miss without BJ Fleming this year.
What are you expecting to see from Dang Dang this year? I mean, we've heard about this guy since he got on campus. Got a good preview last year. He can score touchdowns. But, what are your expectations, Tom?
I think there's just a really developing trust between Jerry Kaminsky and Dang Dang. I think Dang is proven, he did it again today, that if you throw him a 50-50 ball, he's going to come down with it. And I think that's really where his game has grown. I didn't think that he flashed the greatest hands his first year on campus. And I think he's coming down with more of those. And I think that's just a result of kind of some growing confidence, getting stronger, getting smarter about playing that position. You know, I've been pretty impressed with his growth, and he had a good day today. Dang Dang and Corey Ty were the standouts at wide receiver today.
Cam Weir, the transfer from Washington State, kind of a speed guy, shorter. What can we expect? Is he going to be a contributor, or is he still, because he's still young, he's still a freshman. Are they counting on him, do you think, or is this a wait and see?
I think it's a wait and see. I just really haven't seen enough of him to get a great feel for it. Obviously, Danny Freund comes in from Washington State, has a great background with him and knows what he has there. But I noticed through the first 2 days that a lot of that role has gone to Christian Hoskins still. And he's been a bigger part of what they're doing there, because that's going to be an interesting one to follow, because they kind of have 4 or 5, 6 guys of that body type that, you can only play so many of those jittery guys who are 5'9", 165.
How about
those are the fun guys to interview,
Yeah.
because I get to look high usually.
Right.
So there's not many opportunities like that.
Is there a position group to worry about, Tom? That we're, obviously we're not, A to Z. We don't got it all covered up there in Grand Forks. So they're still building this thing. But if you had to go into the season, you said, hey, I'm a little worried about this position group, which would it be?
Yeah, I think probably a safety. You could make the case for linebacker as well, but I just don't know enough about, they're putting out, I believe it's Avery Dixon starting with Tyler Erkman. We kind of know what to expect a little bit more with Erkman, who's been in the program for a while. But outside of Erkman, you're talking about guys like Avery Dixon and Fields and just some names that are not proven, that I just don't know enough about. I think Eric Schmidt kind of earned himself a pretty long leash of trust last year with the way he turned around that defense. So, in other years, it might be more of a concern than it is right now. But I think those are areas that are super unproven at linebacker depth and all over at safety.
Right. Marquise Edmond at safety. We don't know what we got there. He was the transfer from Virginia State that, from all accounts, some of these, when you transfer in from some of these defenses, they don't do as much as a FCS defense would do. They don't ask as much. So the learning curve is quite large for some of these players. So it takes, into fall camp for some of them to kind of get comfortable, so to speak, that the talent's there, but it's like, hey, this is a whole nother world. So yeah, there's a few names on that list. And I could see the one that, I would like that seemed to move around a little bit last year was Avery Scott. If I could see him easily playing, one of the safeties or the nickel, whatever they need if Wiltshire wasn't around, that type of thing, because his body type is diverse. He can play all of them at 6 foot or whatever he is. So that's one where I think they got to get him back, get Wiltshire back, and suddenly you're talking that nickel safety room looks a heck of a lot better, in my opinion, Tom.
Yeah, that would be a big fix, because if those guys aren't available, your corner depth gets a little bit thinner, and you're really relying on what Ty Lutke probably at nickel, who just is a young player who hasn't quite proven himself yet.
Well, I'm a big believer in the game is won up front, and Last year coming into the season, we had no questions about the offensive line, but after watching spring ball last year, the D-line was a question mark. And boy, they proved us all wrong because probably out of every position group, they were the most consistent last year. They had a great year. How do you write about those two groups just when they're stacked with a lot more depth and a lot more talent this year?
Yeah, the defensive line is going to be a real strength, I think. I've been impressed with what I've seen so far from the Beaver twins coming in as true freshmen. Kylan Macklin, transfer from Albany. He went after Kaminsky today on a rollout, and I was just really impressed with the speed he had to close that gap as he chased down the quarterback. Obviously, you're not hitting quarterbacks right now, but I was really impressed with how quickly he could move.
The Beaver twins from Missouri, believe, and how do they look? Because we talk about we heard about their size and their strength. Do they look like true freshmen when they're lining up here early in practice?
No, usually you don't see those D-tackle builds arrive immediately. Usually you've got to, take a couple years to get to that point. So, 6'2", 275, 280. I've been impressed that they're disruptive in the backfield, tackles for loss. They've jumped off the page to me already.
Yeah, we had spoken on this in the past. The last year's D-line going into the year, I mean, remember we spoke on it on the show. We're worried. All right, we're worried about the D-line. We don't know. It was kind of a piece them together. Some transfers come in, the St. Thomas kid, and then Henry come in. We're like, okay, we got bodies. We don't quite know Montre, Parker. And all of a sudden, teams can't run on us. And we're like, this kind of, wow, these guys are really, and then by the end of the year, I mean, you realize they were just, basically, they were playing their ass off. Every game, they had those guys dialed in. They were getting everything out of them, subbing in, keeping them fresh. Guys they were bringing in weren't, All-Americans or anything, but they were coming in, giving you 5 reps, heading back out again. And the way they had that thing going was impressive. But now I almost get hesitant because we talk about all these body types they got now. This is what it's supposed to look like, right, Tom? Are we going to get that same effort? Are we going to get, are we trading off just sheer desire and, blood and gut and out there for body types now? Or hopefully we can get the best of both worlds?
Yeah, I think you return enough experience that, it wasn't flashy with Logan Eckert, but he was your starting D tackle for, a pretty winning defense. And so, I've been impressed with the guys they've brought in at tackle, and we know what to expect at edge, obviously. So yeah, I just think they're really deep along the defensive line, and if Rucker creates the amount of attention we anticipate him to create, I'm not the greatest X's and O's mind, but I got to imagine that they're going to have, no one's going to be double teaming anybody else on the defensive line.
That should free up some activity on the inside. I mean, that's pretty much what NDSU relied on all the years. Their D tackles would get after it in there because it was a lot of one-on-one.
And Lance, if he can pick up where he left off, he was playing at a high level before he got hurt last year in that playoff game, and would have been fun to see him keep going.
Well, and Vig on the other side, this is as big a front as we've ever had. Biggest, most impressive, that's for sure. But hey, we got a boatload of Twitter questions, Tom, we got good stuff here. We'll just rapid fire. How does that sound? You give us, your thoughts, Tom. We've touched on some of these, so I'll try to be selective. But I don't know if you got your schedule in front of you, Tom. But which non-Dakota, Nebraska away game would be the best to go to this year? Doug Iverson, our guy, asked that one. I'm trying to think what would be the next after a Dakota.
Well, you win by default, right? Because the other options, Terre Haute, Youngstown, they are what they are. So it's got to be Portland, right?
Yeah, Portland. Yeah, that was a sneaky little one. Yeah, it'd be. Can you make something of it out there? Is that an area where you can make a trip out of that? I've never been to Portland.
I've seen them play at both stadiums out there, and they're playing at the Hillsboro setup, I believe, this time around, rather than the downtown soccer setup.
Okay.
So, you just have to hit up Portland, and the football can just kind of be an after thought. You don't get to see anything cool stadium wise really there.
Was Hillsboro, was that the one about 10 years ago when they were good and we were good and it was just a bloodbath? Was that did they move it when Cuxa and Reyes were hitting everyone as hard as they could, and the Portland guys were hitting everybody as hard as they could. There was just bodies all over the place in that game.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who the Twin Cities linebacker had like 19 tackles. Taj Rich.
Oh, yeah. Taj Rich at that game. Yep. I remember I was watching that thing. I'm like, somebody's going to die here. Like, because Portland was good that year, I remember, and they made the play. I think that was the year they went to the playoffs. We beat them, but they went to the playoffs as a seed, and they had some thumpers out there too. And so it was a low-scoring game, and I as soon as you brought that up, I kind of remember that state. That was maybe the first time. Was that the first time they moved out to there, for at least for UND?
I think so. Yeah, I think I've seen the downtown setup twice, and just that setup next to the Hillsboro Hops baseball stadium just once.
Interesting, but okay.
Another Twitter question. It's coming from my head. I'd tweet it right now, but special teams wasn't actually our most reliable position group last year. Cost us some very crucial points in games. What's the latest there, Tom? And I know they brought in a new kicker from, I think he's from Brainerd.
Yeah, Sawyer Riffle adds to that mix. It's still a question mark. I think, you bring in Sawyer Riffle, who has a reputation for a big leg. And so I would anticipate that maybe he's going to handle your kickoffs, and he's going to have an opportunity to give you a chance late in games to maybe kick a 45-yarder, or, at the end of half, ends of game. I don't think they were comfortable kicking a 50-yarder a year ago. And so I think they would be now. And I think the question will be, who's more reliable handling the short stuff? And that's got to get sorted out here.
Yeah, we have to be able to make a 35-yard field goal 99% of the time. I mean, we have to that was a major issue. I mean, I couldn't get up and go out to get a concession when they were lining up for a 35-yard field goal. In the past, I could. That one, I had to stay and watch it, because I wasn't sure where the hell it was.
It was
go.
Even extra points. I mean, we missed one in Montana. What was the final score there? I mean, it was a concern last year. So glad to see there's more competition there this year.
Tom, I think we talked about this for the most part, but just to sum it up, Twitter question: biggest strength, biggest weakness on the team this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the strength is going to be at the line of scrimmage. I think the D-line, O-line should be some of UND's strongest units in years here. In terms of weakness right now, to me, until proven otherwise, it's probably at safety. UND had Zach Lewis and Jai Martin probably taking a heck of a lot of snaps last year. And so until those guys kind of prove it, that's kind of a weakness for me.
In terms of size, is this the biggest team we've had from Jeremy? I believe so. I think as far as length now, another position where we haven't really talked about the length, Tom, is inside linebacker, correct?
Yeah. I mean, that's true. When you bring, Applegate, Nate Applegate, the incoming true freshman, there's a few true freshmen with really good body types there, but I was talking with somebody out of UND today and mentioned that they look like what South Dakota State had a linebacker for years, maybe more of that 6'3", 240. I think, you're starting to see some of that. It's going to take some time with some younger guys like, Starcevic and Miller, but really impressed with the frame that Applegate showed up with here.
Yeah, there's a lot taller. They got a lot taller at linebacker, and that was an emphasis. I mean, you have those guys. It's obviously you can take on blocks a little better. You can see into the backfield while you're doing it a little better. But in the passing lanes, they drop into the passing lanes. They get their arms out, and all of a sudden, things are getting a little tighter for the quarterback when a taller guy is standing back there when he's dropping deep. And yeah, I mean, it was imperative that, I know safety they had to get a little bigger, but linebacker was for sure one of. Another question: did Illinois State get hot at the right time, or are they actually a top team in the country? I mean, they kind of put on an epic run. Obviously, last year that was unprecedented. The way they just all of a sudden took care of business out of nowhere. Did you get a feel at the Missouri Valley Day? At the media days, do they feel like they're for real now, or was that kind of a flash in the pan, but they're still a top 10 team type of thing?
Yeah, and I can see both sides of that, right? Like, coaching staff that's been there for a while, that's got some continuity, and they've been good. They've been solid for a while here now. Are they going to be consistently a top 5 team? I think that would definitely surprise me. They earned their spot preseason this year, but I guess to answer the question, I don't think that they've arrived in some sort of new sense, really.
Right. Yeah. We'll have to see him do it again. It's one of those things where you kind of count on South Dakota State, but Illinois State, like when was that? 2014, I think they made the national championship game too, and then kind of disappeared, for X number of years, and then came back and got hot again. So what else do we got here, Tank? Okay, with all the FBS talk in the West, where will the Missouri Valley and Big Sky conferences be in 5 years? Well, that's an easy one to answer, Tom.
Yeah, get out your crystal ball.
Jeez.
I mean, it has to be under a, it would have to be under a different structure than we even fully understand right now. So it's just hard to project, but could the Montanas and North Dakota and South Dakotas be kind of reunited under one tent? They're certainly similar institutions, but it's hard to predict.
See, and the thing I keep, you read about people always projecting for the Mountain West, they should add X, they should add Y, they should add, well, pretty soon it's, hey, they should add South Dakota State. Okay. Well, then now they're in there. Well, geez, another good one would be, and they never mention UND, of course, because apparently we don't have the money or the facilities to do that, but they always mention, well, maybe Illinois State, well, pretty soon you're back to the NCC Missouri Valley again, which is what they wanted to get away from. So it's like for anyone who's projecting this thing, out and just trying to have fun, with it, whatever, but they don't want to be associated with any FCS. We're moving up, but to add teams, you kind of got to take FCS teams to add them. So then you're back to, in 5-10 years, are you back to square one again? To where you're redoing right where you were?
That's what I mean by like institutions. That's why it has always made sense for me that the Dakota Four stick together and the Montanas, they're just similar. And I mean, when North Dakota State left, that was one of the comments, right? Is that, I think maybe they'll realize that their old neighbors weren't all that bad.
Well, you're going to find that out when they see these other teams.
Yeah. How about health right now? Are we a healthy team as we start fall camp?
Yes. I'm trying to think if, typically in fall camp, 3-4 guys are going to be hurt at all times. Is there one that I'm worried about for, late August? Not really. I think they're pretty healthy. They've got a couple tight ends that are banged up right now, which happens to be one of their deepest position groups. But if I had to say if there's a position group that they need to see about some injury timelines, it's at tight end.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they got bodies there. That's for sure. I mean, in the nice thing about the tight end group, which somebody had asked about, they got all different types of bodies, which I like because the, you got the Hayden Stays, you got the Kallstroms, they're the back blocker, physical. Sure, they can leak out and catch one, but they're not counted on for that. But they're going to be counted on to move people at the line of scrimmage, power through the A gap, maul a little bit, that type of thing, along with Mason South. But then you got your tall guys too. You got your Ramadkas, you got your Bayhammers, you got those guys where, there you're down the field pass catchers. So I do like the makeup of that room. And Danny Freund's got 6, 7, 8 to choose from, how many ever it is. So I'd imagine that those are the packages we're going to see this year. And one thing I want to go back to, Tom, that we had spoke of earlier is we always wanted the downfield threat tank on offense. Do we still not quite have that downfield threat, Tom? I mean, I'm not quite seeing the deep, I don't know. Do you see it out there, or is it going to be more of the intermediate stuff again?
I think that's a fair, question based on the fact that BJ Fleming was really the first time that I feel like North Dakota fans have seen that guy who's just going to win the one-on-one and go for 80, 90 yards. Can Corey Ty provide some of that? Maybe. That's why I'm curious about guys like Cameron Weir, maybe a Christian Hoskins. I'm losing somebody else's in that mix too. But that's certainly a concern. I don't think that they've got a BJ Fleming just plug and swap it out.
Yeah, that Montana one he caught, I mean, that was impressive. And then all of a sudden South Dakota State gets the deep slant and he's gone there. It's like, yeah, we hadn't seen that since, boy, it'd been quite a while. 2015, probably. Clive George's was the last time we saw something like that.
Well, Tom, to wrap things up here, you got your last $100 and you got to bet it on UND's record at the end of the year. What is that record going to be?
Boy, that's a tough one. I mean, if you're going to say there's a Nebraska loss in there.
We're going to win that game.
Whoa. Hold on here.
No, that's a W. That's a W.
Hey, honestly, famous last words here, but there's a chance. There's a chance there. If this team is in full strength, if we go into Lincoln full strength and play like we did at K-State last year, where they weren't real worried about anything. I mean, K-State just made a couple more plays than us at the end of the game to win it. I don't know. I mean, I might sound like an idiot here, but there's a real chance I go into Lincoln here, Tom, and get one.
I'll say two. I'll say 2 losses in regular season.
Okay. So what's that, 10-2?
So that means we've taken care of some of these. We called them the 7 plays with Coach Haug last year. That we weren't winning those plays. Those 7 plays that make a difference in a game. That means we're going to take care of those this year.
I think they're more equipped to be a strong team this year than they were.
And it seems like they've built it into everything they do 12 months a year, that little thing could be the reason why we don't get it done in October.
No, you got to reduce your margin for error. That's what I always said. And you know how you do that is you get longer bodies out there. And it's just the way it is. They say, why, these coaches say they don't want, high school coaches say this all the time. You'll see them, they don't want a 5'9" corner. Well, can a 5'9" corner play? By all means. Yes, he can. If he has A, B, C, D, and E all lined up at the same time, a 5'9" corner can play football. Yes, no doubt about it. A 6'2" corner has a hell of a lot. He doesn't need all A through E. He needs 3 of them going at all times, and the other 2, hopefully you develop and you get, they come along. But in the game, he can match up against different body types at all times, and the margin for error now, is smaller. So that's one thing where I think, Eric Schmidt's made a point in recruiting of getting the body types just because you can develop them, but reducing that margin for error and just having the ability to match up on 3rd and 7 a lot better than they have in the past, and not given they're not given a free one. They're not giving teams a free one, right? When they just physically go beat your guy and there's just nothing you can do about it. Now that can be taken away now. Now, so I think that's one thing that we got to watch for this year and see how are we getting beat in those plays? Are we getting just beat physically, or are we the one now we're coming up with
beating
those plays?
Ourselves, yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting, Tommy.
You do a great job. 23 years this is for covering UND football, but now's a good time. I want to tell everyone, get your wallets out, get that credit card out, and go to grandforksherald.com and subscribe for the whole year. You won't regret it for the UND coverage you guys all do up there. So that's my pitch. Subscribe, read his content, especially for fall camp. There's not a better source around for UND football coverage than what you do, Tom, in the Herald every August.
Yeah, well, you're a guy, Tom, because you're the eyes and ears out there. We cover UND football, but we come to you. So you're a guy you know more than most people do. So thanks again. I appreciate you coming on. We got to do this again in 3 weeks-ish, maybe. Before the first game, let's do it again, because we had questions about freshmen, which freshmen, which obviously, it's hard to answer at this point. So I think you could probably answer those a little better in a couple weeks.
Yeah, 100%.